From alpha to now, Fab Unsealed is the best online Flesh and Blood box opening experience. From breaks to wars to special events and slabs, Chris and Ian have turned ripping boxes, cracking packs, and searching for spice into a live stream celebration. Join their Patreon for special deals, including $5 off every slot you buy, and follow them on Facebook, YouTube, and whatnot to get in on the action and be the star of the show. That's Fab Unsealed. Box breaks, box wars, boom.
All right. What's up, everybody? This is Nathan Crawford and Joshua Lau from the Card Guys. Really glad that we got the opportunity to commentate. And here we go. We got round 3. Tyler Brotton versus Charles Dunn. Katsu versus Oldhim. What do you think, Josh?
This is a matchup that I think has substantially changed recently. Not only was Katsu considered pretty rare in the metagame in the previous set, but Katsu got a ton of support and a lot of new toys to play with. But on the other side, we got Oldhim, who's sturdy as a rock, and Kadachi is not very effective against Crown of Seeds and Rampart, although we have seen some Katsus implement the new Van Brace, which that's competing for breaking scales for a slot. So breaking scales has a lot of implied value, but we'll see how it goes here. So this is round 3. Both of these players are 2-0, and this should be a pretty good game. I expect Tyler to be on a pretty aggressive plan as Katsu. Tradition in the last time Katsu was relevant, he was played as a control deck, but they're just decks that do that better, right? So, here we go. Looks like Tyler is going first. Whether or not he won the dice roll, we don't know. Yep. As we can see, there is the Van Brace. Although we cannot see his boots, I'm going to presume that those are Snapdragons.
No, those are Breeze Rider boots.
Breeze Rider boots.
So just before the glare hit. Yeah, okay. I think the biggest question is, I think fatigue right now is the thing on everybody's mind as far as the Oldhim, and unfortunately Tyler did show that he put an E-Strike in Arsenal. Unfortunately, but that does happen.
Don't need to show that to them. Yeah,
but getting 2 cards, especially Glacials and an E-Pot down turn 1, definitely a positive play.
Yeah, this is a totally fine start. Looks like we're gonna get some armor early, possibly, or we're just gonna lose a lot of tempo here. Terra Sunder, one of the greatest cards against heroes with low armor.
Yeah, unfortunately, he has 1 block in the boots and then Tunic and Mass. So any armor given up here is really. He needed a Sink Blow or a Flick Flack to really bail him out and block with the boots there, but unfortunately just didn't have it, and this is really going to hurt, especially if Charles is on the fatigue plan, which historically has been a style that Charles has really favored.
Mm-hmm. So we saw a yellow Surging Strike go to the graveyard there. We saw Flusterfist. So if I was Oldhim right now, I would definitely be putting Tyler on a aggressive style of Katsu. Yellow Surging Strike is something quite new. I guess if you really want to run that whole new Descendant Gust Wave, Bonds of Ancestry line, that's what you would be doing. All right.
Yeah, well, I think the standard kind of now is the non-quote unquote surgings, where you run the reds, the yellows, and then the Be Like Water, which kind of acts as copy 7 through 9.
Correct.
But we have seen a dojo pitch the first turn from Tyler. So and we saw the E-Pot. So Tyler is coming into this match knowing that it's going to require setup. I'm just curious of whether he watches the stream and he's going to play a time snap and shortcut the Mugenchi line for the anti-fatigue.
That would be some good tech if he could implement it. In terms of setup, there's actually a card that he's set up pretty nicely here. Flusterfist in the graveyard is actually where you want it to be, because that allows you to search off of Bonds of Ancestry, which is pretty much, I guess that's Katsu's lava burst, basically. So we'll see how that goes.
Unfortunately, you do want the blue ones in the graveyard because you want to be going and getting the red ones.
Yes,
and I think,
ideally, yes.
Yeah, I think he blocked with one and then had to there might be 2 red ones already in the graveyard.
Yes,
but there's other targets. He could go get 100 wins and then Winds of Eternity. You know, there's options.
Yep. All right. This is the start of a potentially good turn, and where Oldhim is going to need to kind of take this turn pretty seriously. We have Tyler with red Surging Strike and a full grip. So this is a turn where I'm going to be looking at Charles very carefully. If he has an ice card, how is he going to utilize the ice react? Because that's super important. Looks like he doesn't have an ice card. So that's less relevant here. So we may see some armor usage here. There's the check. Looks like we have 2 copies of Flusterfist there. So
yep.
You know, if Tyler has the natty combo here, it doesn't even matter if this hits or not. But if he doesn't have the natural combo, you do want to block this out, potentially with the Ironhide legs.
That's one great thing about
Ironhide legs. Yep.
Yeah, that's one great thing about Rampart, or not Rampart, but Staunch Response is you do leave 1 resource floating, for where you don't have to use it on Crown. You can just Rampart instead of when you normally Crown, you have to use the extra resource, and that 2 steps the Vambrace, right? So that's I'm not sure why he blocked with both.
Yeah, that is a little odd. Maybe he
only paid 1 resource. I don't know.
Because you have to pay into the boots when you defend with them, so that's a little odd there. But
you don't have to. You
don't have to, but if you want the block, you do have to pay before reactions, though.
Correct. Yeah, it's odd.
So it looks like we're just going to follow up with an E-Strike for 7. This is a Tyler showing that there's several ways to play the ninja line. So if he had hit, that E-Strike would have probably been discarded to go find bonds. But since it's blocked out, sending 7 is never bad here, and he's going to punch through some damage here, which is quite nice.
I think that does automatically mean that Dunn's not on the fatigue plan. If because you're typically not going to elect to take that damage in lieu of hammering back. Yeah,
that is true. And we do see there's a Whelming Gust Wave in Tyler's hand, so it looks like he's running both of the follow-ups from Surging Strike, which is nice in terms of options.
Unfortunately, Tyler does have the last copy of the red Flusterfist, so unfortunately he's not going to be able to utilize those cards for bonds. And we are kind of seeing the debate play out of whether Fi or Katsu is the best ninja, because sometimes you just get those hands, right? You had to block 6 on a hammer, and not just 6, but Red Whelming is arguably one of the best cards, in the Katsu deck. So
his hand was pretty much forced here. There's only one way to play this out. So the Shuriken, this basically acts as breaking scales. Visit the floating dojo. This allows you to. This is the new Katsu specialization from Outsiders that lets you put a Surging Strike and a card with combo on the top or bottom of your deck. So you could set it up for, late game if you have a pitch stack going, or you can, just put it on top to get it immediately to keep pressure up. But looks like
this is actually why I favor to because dojo dojo you have the option to put on top or bottom. Because typically when you're playing dojo, you're not making like the most tempo play, so you're going to get hit with something. That's why I actually favor putting it on the bottom, and then getting to it on the second cycle, so you're not faced with this situation.
Yep, those are 3 very powerful cards that he just lost there. But getting 2 of them back.
He's going to try it again.
He's going to try it again. He's like, you got another Spinal? Another Spinal? Looks like he's got a Glacial at the very least. Also a CLF there. Terra Sunder. Ugh. See, Nathan, this is why I like to play decks with armor.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
Terra Sunder
exactly right.
is I just laugh that off generally. Unless it's on an Othos.
Yeah, it's just anything that, there's ever since Outsiders came out, there's just so many on-hit effects in the game that, just heroes that just have their guard down by not having armor. It's just, and that's a price you play. Like, you play Vambrants because you're assuming that they're going to be fatiguing you, but like, he hasn't activated it once, and he could have breaking scales on that gust wave that he played on the third turn. So there's like opportunity cost paid, and we'll see if Tyler can overcome that.
This hand looks fairly decent. There's a surging and a whelming, and there's another whelming to discard for Mugenshi if he wants. And the Shuriken plus Fambrace does make the blocking a little awkward for Oldhim if he doesn't have an Earth card.
Yeah, I think the collective block in Tyler's hand is probably 5.5, maybe.
Yeah, so he's basically looking at this and saying, well, is this... Yeah, it's like... I think that hand is like just good enough that you're just going to take this and go for it, I think.
Yeah, but and Oldham's still sitting fine. He has... I mean, he could even have a Pullman arsenal. It's entirely possible. Although you can't really assume that because Tyler didn't make any tempo on the playback. So it could literally just be a D react that he's saving or a dead card or something like that. So. All right, Tyler has checked the graveyard, checking threats, but the dojo is obviously going to offset that and kind of elude what's been played and what hasn't.
And Tyler's life just evaporated there. 26 down to 16. Gonna have to
be late for dinner.
Gonna have to put a lot of damage on the board here. Gonna start off with taking Tunic energy here, and pitching a red. Looks like he didn't have a blue. Ooh.
Yeah, that's
blue. Not having a blue
ideal.
and having 2 blocks is really not ideal here. Looks like he's just gonna go for it though. The rest, I mean, the Surging Strike line doesn't cost a lot of energy if, other than the Surging Strike. So we'll see here what he wants to do.
All right, we do see the Heart of Findale and the Peace of Mind. Only going to get partial value on that heart because it's not going to be gaining the life. But Peace of Mind still a strong card, and it looks like we might see an activation of Peace of Mind here to block this out.
Yep.
I do wonder why he keeps throwing in the Ironhide legs. There has to be a reason, right?
Oh, he does. I know why. He doesn't want his shield to get 100% evaporated by that new card.
But does the Katsu player get to kick?
No, it's random. So it's 50-50 for the shield to be gone.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
Cyclone Roundhouse. That's the card we're talking about.
That's actually really heads up of Charles.
Yeah, that's him being very, very cognizant here. Okay, so, I mean, Tyler did not have to search, so he's just going to... So here, this is a tricky spot here because you're very tempted to Shuriken here, but if you Shuriken, he's going to Crown, which means you're going to have to Vambrace, which means you're going to lose a card anyways. And Charles knows that Tyler has a pitch problem here. If that was a yellow or blue, we would probably see a block with armor plus the Sync Blue here. Just respect it. So yeah, going up to 5 here, he's gonna take Tunic, Crown,
of course,
in response here. So even if Tyler goes for the Vambrace, he's not really gaining a card from the... Looks like he's gonna do it anyways. So if he has an Earth card, this also becomes pretty bad here. Looks like he's just gonna take 1 here, go to 31. Yep. He's gonna draw a card. And
discard, yep.
He can order the triggers here. So which combo piece do you think he's gonna find here?
It has to be Bonds, 100%. Now all the red Fluster Fists are gone, so I don't know what exactly he's grabbing, but because we haven't seen a Dishonor, I'm pretty sure. So you have to have a pre-existing card in the graveyard to banish to go search the deck. So
I mean, he could just grab blue Flusterfist. I mean, 2 damage is 2 damage, right? So, but ideally you would be going after the red Flusterfist here. So red Flusterfist is really, really nice because it costs 0, which means you would obviously run the blues, which means you can. It's the perfect target.
It looks like blue Flusterfist is his only option because the only other combo card he has is Descendant Gustwave.
Yeah.
So,
and
it looked like he just passed on it.
Yep. So, when Bonds doesn't get the full value here, that's that's a little bit sad there.
Yep. But he did establish tempo, but that's about it.
So, yeah, I mean, both of these players have been playing quite well, but we're kind of seeing, some of the fundamental issues with Katsu is you're an aggro deck that can be disrupted by things like Spinal Crush, by things like Ice React, and then you're very reliant on getting in, a little bit of damage, which Earth React and Crown of Seeds kind of circumvents that. So just, fundamentally not the easiest matchup here. There's a Dishonor, but it wasn't in the graveyard, so you couldn't search for it.
Wasn't where it needed to be.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting because I think it was Michael Hamilton that came out first and said that was what he tried to make work Katsu when Outsiders came out, and he just said that the consistency behind the deck was just not there. When he couldn't find a justifiable reason to play it over 5. Basically, was the idea. And in other matchups, maybe you could justify it, but especially into Oldhim, you just really need that consistency because if you ever take an off turn, you just get spinaled or choke slammed or whatever the case may be.
I mean, one of the nice things about having the VOD like this is we get to see their body language here, and I have noticed Tyler's body language over the last 5-6 minutes has become more and more stoic and kind of like.
Yeah, there's the Easter egg that he showed turn 1. So
playing your arsenal once in 6 turns is generally not quite good. Was this the Easter egg from turn 1?
Yeah, he accidentally showed it and then put it down. So that it's been sitting there for about 4 or 5 turns.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, he's got some decent damage in, but Charles kept his hand, so
he kept it for a reason. There it is.
Yep. And Tyler's deck has some 0 blocks. It has some no blocks. It has some 2 blocks.
Well, that's the problem about this matchup specifically. Is if you noticed he currently has 3
concealed blade. Nice.
Well, he has 3 no blocks in his hand right now. He has 2 shurikens and a dojo.
2
in his hand, which he can't even play all of. So, and it's all due to an opportunity cost that has to be paid for the chance to beat fatigue. And then just like this situation, they just go down your throat, and it's just not good.
Wasn't the better play there to Kadachi Shuriken?
Yes.
Like the most value you could get here is actually him ice reacting.
Well,
and then playing the instant out, right?
I would say no, because Kadachi, it's very rare that Oldhim can utilize a 4-card hand, especially 5 if you count the arsenal. So maybe it's somewhat correct, but either way, it's a pretty bad spot. Spot. I think we do see a pummel, which is definitely not to be good. We also have a Macho Grande.
Yep, and a CLF there as well. Several ways you could play this hand, but I guess the most straightforward is just a pummel on attack here.
Well, if that Evergreen is blue, he can actually pummel the Macho Grande. I can't tell if it is blue.
It looks like it is.
He's going to pummel Evergreen instead.
Yeah, he's going to pummel Evergreen instead. And
which is disciplined because now he doesn't have to come off an arsenal, so he's not giving up anything. It's a disciplined play.
Yep. All right, Bond's jumping in front of this, trying to preserve some life, but this pummel is going to take a decent chunk of his life away here. And yeah, that's going to cause him to drop to 4, I believe, or 5. Yeah, 4.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he just doesn't have the life to make a full pivot here.
Yep.
So it's just playing all those setup cards, and that's kind of why I tried the shurikens, but I ran into a similar issue like this where the only thing I could afford was like 1 time snap and a couple dojos. Anything more than that, it just ruins the match because you can't block with the extra blues you have.
Yep, makes sense. All right.
Do have a surging, not threatening Katsu because empty on the hand. So
yep. Katsu is really a hero that benefits from playing 5-card hands because it's possible you could even threaten mask twice if you do it right. And then obviously you have options for using his hero ability. But yeah. Oh, looks like he had the natural combo here. This is pretty good here. But if Charles is very likely to just 3 block plus crown this. I guess he can't do that because of Tunic up. But
he does have Peace of Mind in a blue, so he could just either block 5 if he's kind of in an awkward spot on blues, or he could Peace of Mind and crown, and that's 5 prevention, so it plays around Vambrace.
Actually, he has to play around Vambrace, Tunic Vambrace, and Shuriken, right? So he needs to block 6 here if he's being very, very diligent here. And
well, I mean, you also have to ask yourself, like, what's the value of a random card? Because the Katsu trigger's already passed because it's the first time that an attack action hits.
You're right.
So, like, what is the value of this random card? And Tyler's at 4. So if Dunn presents 8 damage, that's
looks
3
like he does
cards
have a
from Tyler
as well.
Yeah. But he is going to go ahead and... I don't understand the crown here because it's just going to get Vambraced anyway.
But at least it forces the Tunic Vambrace.
That's true.
So, and I guess that allows you to Ironhide leg something later if you need to. Yep.
And Dunn had a amazing, really, really good top deck. He pulled the E-Strike, so he could just E-Strike for 7 and call it a day.
Drawing
and
2
it was
here. Third in a hit. Yep.
That's pretty good.
So what's the value of 2 random cards is a question.
Well, the fact that he drew 2 1-cost cards, it's worth exactly 4 damage.
Yep.
I think he drew a Razor Reflex and not the Cyclone Roundhouse, but the Spinning Wheel Kick, I think.
Oh. You never want to pitch Razor for Kadachi. That is
you don't.
That is definitely not where you want to be. Shield's going to jump in front of this with the extra energy here. And looks like he's just going to arsenal the other card and move on. And with E-Strike and Pummel, we're likely to see the E-Strike here, pocket the Pummel for the next turn. Yep, goodbye, Peace of Mind. And we're basically seeing the setup for the kill next turn.
And Descendant Gustwave blocking 2 has came up so many times in my games. So many times.
So I kind of want to step back a little bit and look at like maybe a higher level like topic here is Vambrace plus Shuriken against most decks, or Vambrace plus Breaking Scales. Sorry, Breaking Scales plus Shuriken or Vambrace plus Shuriken exerts a ton of pressure on a lot of decks. Because if you time it right, like they have to overblock by 2. on everything, which is, you just can't do that, right? So, however, Oldhim very easily sidesteps that with Earth React, with Crown. So it's like Oldhim can see from a mile away what Tyler was about to do.
Right.
And anytime that Tyler did something fancy, it was because Charles allowed him to do it.
Right.
And that's really really the story here. Charles taking some damage here.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, double spinning wheel kick is pretty good.
And remember, he has one in Arsenal too. So
yeah.
Not the worst.
Yep.
Be 4-5-5. That'll be what, 14 damage on 4 cards.
Hurricane Technique was actually one of my favorite cards in Ira. That was this is Ira's sibling here. I think we're gonna see probably 2 cards just jump in front of this, because I don't think he needs every card here for to make his pummel play here. Yeah, a blue and 3 red spinning wheel kicks. Achievement unlocked, I guess, but
yeah, but I don't think it's enough, unfortunately.
Like, even if he draws a sink below here, this is, well, there's a sink below. All right.
Yeah, you just present 5 and then another 4, and that gets what, all but 1 card probably, maybe. Might be able to keep 2. Nope, only keep 1.
Yeah, looks like he can. Oh,
and then you kill with the pummel on the next turn.
Yep. To
Really
Tyler's
heads
credit,
up.
he has made it somewhat close.
Absolutely, and Charles has done a phenomenal job just being heads up enough to know to block with the Iron Hide just in case they play the Cyclone Roundhouse.
Rouse revealing Thunderquake and Chokeslam.
Okay, if there's ever a time to have Buzzsaw Trap, it's right here. No, I'm just kidding.
Looks Katsu's gonna have to ask his buddy Riptide for that, I guess.
Yep.
And here comes a hammer and probably a pummel on top of this. Yeah. And there we go. GG. Well played from Charles and Tyler, actually. I think they both played pretty well there. But we just saw some of the inherent difficulties there. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
No, it was played well by both. Tyler was very unfortunate in some spots, some of the hands. But both of them have seemed like they had a solid plan into each other's matchup. And overall it was a very good game.
Yep. And, this is just another point to why Oldhim is considered such a strong deck is he can handle these kind of rogue decks that, like off meta decks pretty well. And well, congratulations to Charles. He moves on. He's 3-0 here. And we'll see how he does in the rest of the tournament.
All right. This is Nathan and Josh signing out for this round. We'll be back in round 6.
Round 4 is brought to you by a good friend of mine, Jeff Blakemore, who's kicked off an amazing altar service. His website just launched. Please check it out at marvelousaltars.com, where you can find a lot of spice for a lot less money. Go check it out now.
Welcome back to our coverage of Battle Hardened Richmond. I'm Shamir Sami, and I'm joined here by the Lazy Dog and Jody Burney. We're here to take you into a little view of this matchup between Lexi Livewire and Oldhim, piloted by Matt McInnis and Charles Dunn, respectively, 2 pretty high-profile players on the scene. Lazy, what is there to kind of say about this matchup?
I think that drill shot that we're looking at is pretty key. Try to get the token on Rampart as soon as possible. And maybe on the other side, the Crown of Seeds and CNC are highlighted. But I think Crown of Seeds is the bigger impact.
For sure.
It looks like we're jumping right into the action here. This has been a 3-of-a-kind turn where Matt's already shot 3 arrows and played a Rain Razors on top of it. The drill shot, as mentioned, had forced the defense reaction from Charles Dunn. But now Matt gets to activate these bullseye bracers with the Oldhim empty-handed. He gets that second free block out of the Rampart, but the Bolton shot's going to get the reload effect here, coming in for 6 damage. And it actually looks like what it's loading is the... we caught a glimpse of it. I'll let the camera catch up for a moment. And players just making sure life totals are all good and showing this red infecting shot, which is super brutal to see at the end of a combat chain and when you're empty-handed.
Yeah, this is like the ultimate combo turn that Lexi is really trying to build up to here. I mean, this was literally a 5-arrow turn, all of it getting +2. So that Rain Razors contributed 10 damage to this combat chain, finishing off with, I mean, one of the highest damage arrows that Lexi's newly acquired in Infecting Shot, with this kind of like 1 for 7 style energy, an additional +2 from the Rain Razors.
Yeah, and
a ton of damage here. Not really something Charles looking to have to deal with and combat with.
Yeah, and at this point, I think that Charles has just got to try to stabilize on the life total that he's had, but then also work towards an arsenal so that he can continue using Crown of Seeds and Rampart efficiently, right?
Yeah, and we see him draw up into a Peace of Mind here, which is really the card he wants to see after something like that, where he can, still block out, prevent a lot of damage. He gets that free extra resource for the Rampart here, and ends up with a Ponder to be able to arsenal on his following up turn.
Yeah, seems like a pretty good turn to get some breathing room back in. Let's see how much pressure Matt can apply at this moment. It looks like a pretty pitch light hand here. We're pitching a red Remorseless to open up with a Bolton shot, threatening that reload trigger. So I suspect Charles might well respect this. And what blocks 5 really nice and cleanly? Hey, look, it's a Rampart of the Ram's Head and the Peace of Mind.
It's definitely super timely to get this Ponder token here.
Exactly the kind of thing that lets you reestablish Arsenal and kind of feel back in your comfort zone.
The nice thing too on the Oldhim side of the board is that you've still got all your equipment pieces up at full power. So, it's not great for Charles, but at least he's got these options, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of interesting to think about, not using your equipment on that last massive turn that Lexi just had. Really, really valuing that equipment for the late game. I think it's a really, really good piece to note here.
Yeah, I think it's understanding that you've really got to use this equipment to prevent the on hits, because if you're not full blocking an arrow, then stuff like the blood rot pox from Infecting Shot or the reload from a Bolton shot, it's still going through, and that's the kind of stuff that you really have to stop.
Yeah, and there, Matt shooting off that arrow that gets clean blocked by 2-3 blocks. I think that was part of the idea. Try to force out these equipment blocks before you get to that end game state, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't quite see what he drew there for the Arsenal card. Looked like maybe a Zealous, possibly.
Positive value, anyways, right?
yeah, for sure. We see a drill shot getting pitched to load. Looks like I'm not sure what that arrow is. What is that arrow?
That's our sedation shot there in red.
Oh, okay, interesting.
And looks like we've chosen plus on this. That's kind of curious.
I think this is kind of one of the important things to recognize as Lexi in the matchups. Like, sometimes you just need to do a 1-arrow turn where your intention is to load another one with Voltaire and then arsenal a second card. So you end up with a 6-card hand going into the next turn that you can hopefully fully leverage for some serious damage.
I'm seeing a couple of ice cards in Charles' hand. He has the option to take that 6-card hand away from Matt if he commits the card right now to Ice React. But that does also leave him vulnerable to, say, he blocks the 6 damage. It does leave him vulnerable to an attack reaction or something like that going over the top.
You ever see the Iron Rot boots coming up to block, or the Iron Rot legs, or Ironhide legs, excuse me, followed up with a sink below.
Yeah, pretty clean.
Not to sink as well.
Yeah, it's just looking to kind of capitalize on everything lining up here, where you've got the tunic counter ready to pay for it. You've got the sink in hand to be able to full block a 6-power arrow. Pretty interesting here. And this is why we wanted to keep those cards, because we've got a Spinal Crush.
Yeah, very nice, very nice.
Yeah, unfortunately, maybe you shouldn't say unfortunately, because you got good value out of the tunic counter, but at least it's not bluffing the pummel from Matt's side of the board. So he's going to know he's going to have the full information to be able to make his blocks here, even though it's probably not the most comfortable thing to give away 2 cards. And I think we saw that the face down card in the arsenal is a Lightning Surge. So, even if he blocks 6 on this Spinal Crush and gives away 2 cards, he's still able to present a decent amount of threat just off of the remaining cards in hand.
Yeah, that's a pretty beautiful thing.
The Falcon Wing already has go again, and so will the Lightning Surge. But
I think we're going to see the sequencing on this next turn be really interesting, actually, where we possibly open up with the Falcon Wing and then end up flipping Lightning Surge, enabling Voltaire to choose +1 rather than go again like it usually would. It's a pretty interesting little bit of sequencing that a card like Falcon Wing really enables. And yep, that looks like that's what we're opening up with.
A very heads-up play by Matt here.
Yeah, Falcon Wing's a really innocuous card. When I was first kind of looking at it during Outside of Spoilers, I was thinking, this is all right for limited. Maybe Riptide can make some use of this. Lexi's already got plenty of go again, but natural go again, it turns out, is still a pretty useful thing to have, especially with Codex of Frailty being released in the same set. 2 very powerful tools that kind of came together, and Matt's making great use out of that natural go again here.
100%. While we see the no flip Lightning Surge. Okay, very interesting.
Oh, and here he's trying to deny that extra Rampart value. He knows that if
exactly.
He flips it's going to let Charles give +1 to the Rampart and let it block again. So you're actually neutral on the combat chain shenanigans there. But at the same time, your Falcon Wing leaking 2 damage, that's like money in the bank at this point in the game, right? Like Charles is only at 10 life at this point.
It really is. That's the kind of thing that we might have expected to see, like a 3-block card just placed in front of that Falcon Wing, because it's a 3 attack, 3 block, cleans up really nicely if your goal is to block out here. But I think Charles kind of had the read that there's going to be something going on here, and chose to block with the Rampart in that manner, thinking, maybe I can get some extra value here. And Matt in turn has responded saying, nope, I am not going to let you have that.
And now he's coming in with the Endless. So that's the one error that he did choose to keep. But choosing +1 to increase the odds he gets to keep the card, knowing that Crown +3 block cleanly blocks that at this point. But this way...
Yeah, I think the hope here might be that we consume some armor. Who knows? Let's see.
Yeah, I also think Charles here really wants to keep some cards, to really kind of put back some pressure back on his opponent. Try to
I think I can see an Endless Winter and I think that's a red Glacial Footsteps in hand, so we might be looking to try and swing Endless Winter here if he got to keep all his cards, but it's probably going to be a lot of respect given to an Endless Arrow, given how much pseudo card advantage it can give in this matchup.
Yeah, 100%. But I think that's why we see him maybe just take the 2 on the Falcon Wing here, really trying to just kind of see what Matt had left over after the Spinal Crush block, to try to keep some cards here to present back some damage.
And
so the 2 cards in hand.
Choosing not to activate the quiver there. Prefers just having Tunic available the next turn to using the quiver.
I think that quiver might come into play more during the late game I guess we're kind of already in the late game, but who knows, possibly even later on when it kind of feels like we might be approaching the pitch stack. We're at risk of drawing a lot of blues in a row here. I want to be seeing some reds. I want to mix those blues up back into the deck and, try and improve the card quality that's remaining in my deck.
Yeah, and I say this without any negative connotations, but Matt really leaning into the Pepega Lexi strategy where you're kind of just like shooting, trying to play all 4 cards out of your hand in a lot of these sequences to keep the pressure on, and then alternating between that and setting up these larger hands. So curious to see this turn if he's gonna be able to retain that arsenal, or if he's gonna just try to strip the hand and get Charles off this arsenal again, right?
Well, it looks like we're trying to push some amount of damage here because we've gone with the go again on the Sleep Dart. So this isn't just a full-out preparation turn. Charles, again, seemingly willing to leak 2 damage here. And although the on-hit of Sleep Dart doesn't really mean an awful lot, that 2 damage does mean a lot at this point in the game.
Charles' hand here looks like a Sink Below, a Pulverize, and a red Peace of Mind. So kind of difficult to to get the max value out of, pitching a card to the Crown of Seeds here.
That's awkward.
Yeah, pretty rough spot.
Yeah, you blocked that Macho Grande as his first block here. And it looks like he's just going to block the sink below.
Yeah, this is a very interesting play. Not quite sure what Charles is going for here, but I suspect the Arsenal might have something to do with it. Just a feeling.
Oh, it was an evergreen, not
yep.
Okay.
There's that Endless Winter we saved up.
Yeah, and this card is quite good against Lexi, especially when she has this face-down Arsenal card, because Evergreen, when it hits, it makes every single action that you activate create a Frostbite token, and that's even if it's not fused. So, every time she flips...
And the bow.
Yeah, every time she activates the bow, every time she activates Tunic, or Bullseye Bracers, or Snapdragon Scalers, all of those gives her Frostbite.
Yeah, that on hit will probably cost her a whole extra blue this turn, looking at activating Lexi and activating the bow twice. And that's a pretty steep tax on Matt's hand. Steep enough that he's saying, you know what? I'm just going to not take the damage here. You can have these arrows. I don't need them right now.
The spare blue there either.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a... Yeah.
Oh,
I was going to say,
right. Very nice.
A little bit of a setup going on. And Matt has this Frostbite on the stack, letting Charles think about whether, he needs to pitch to Crown of Seeds at this point in time.
Yeah, Charles has a pulverizing arsenal here, so it looks like the hand we're working with doesn't quite play that out. So.
Oh wow, and
looks
that's
like we
super
may be
unfortunate
crowning on our turn.
Yeah, Pulverize is exactly what you would really want to be kind of firing back with at this stage. But it's a close second. Command and Conquer.
Yeah, it looks like a red Glacial Footsteps being pitched there. Something of note.
Yeah, the funny thing is here, like, oh, I may or may not be bluffing this pummel. I've got one resource floating.
I think the great thing in this situation is, like, if Charles feels like he really needs to dig for the pummel, he's got one resource up here to be able to activate Crown of Seeds, cycle away that card in Arsenal, and hope that the blue in his hand and drawing a pummel off the top lets him go over the top of Matt's blocks. But he gets to make all the decisions after Matt blocks. Gives you a lot of agency here.
I think it might be the case that Matt's like, putting himself in that psychologist's chair and thinking like, would Charles Dunn side in the pummels based on all of these other cards that I've seen him play and block with? Like, does he have the deck space for them? And I don't know the answer to that question, but this is certainly one of those decisions that you have to, think long and hard about is the Lexi.
It's pretty counterintuitive to wanting to play a kind of blocking strategy and then bring in these two block reactions into your deck. But I mean, the 1-2 punch of Command and Conquer into pummel is pretty savage. So I could see Charles making that decision, honestly.
We see Matt just looking at the two arrows he's thinking about here. Yeah, and maybe he regrets not playing this Winter's Bite out from Arsenal last turn just to get a little bit of value.
And maybe just feel a bit more secure in the wake of the pummel here, because stripping one card here, leaving Charles with just presumably one floating, and the card in Arsenal would give him a lot more security knowing pummel isn't coming. But now, with the thought of it being there, it's really hard to figure out how much can I afford to let go of here. Because if you guess wrong, you get punished pretty hard, whether it's they have the pummel or they don't. If you guess wrong, you're losing a lot of cards for not much value. But he's committing to it. He's saying if you have it, you have it.
Yeah, and we're not sure what that face-down Arsenal card is, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Rain Razors in hand get pitched just to play the 1-cost arrow. That's left. And Charles Dunn saying, okay, I guess that's the bluff. There's no follow-up.
The bluff has been called, and Matt's probably feeling very, very relieved at this point.
Okay, now playing this Winter's Bite out
drawn
first.
Into another piece of mind here.
Oh, there were 2 Rain Razors in that turn. Wow, that would have been super brutal if the pummel had gone through.
Losing 2 of your power cards is absolutely just hugely destabilizing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Pretty astonishing. Yeah, sorry, go on, Lazy.
I was going to say it'll be interesting whether he commits the Peace of Mind here or he just wants to use the Sink Below to go along with 2 resources. And, you kind of don't have a play on your own turn unless you draw a blue, I guess. But you block the 6 out, right?
Staunch response here.
Yeah, I can also see a staunch response in that hand, which, if it's a red one, would be a very nice 1 extra card answer to this 6 power arrow. But let's see. It does.
Here is the pulverize and arsenal. With the way this hand is set up, you almost kind of need to crown here just to try to.
Yeah, there is no chance of it being played.
Yeah, try to be able to stick one of these 2 cost D-reacts into your arsenal, or possibly just sinking one and potentially just hammering on the follow-up turn, leaving them pulverized.
Do you think that
possibly one of the? Yeah.
Do you think he's trying to keep one of the keep the sink, for instance, in the event that Matt decides to commit this Rain Razors? It's pretty low value, but I guess it deals 4 damage if it forces the hit, right?
Yeah, here we see the staunch going away. Drawing into hard to see.
Looks like it was a blue Guardian card. They're all the same.
Yeah, they all seem.
Yeah, it looks like a blue disable to me.
6 attack poppers
into a Peace of Mind. I think he was trying to get Matt to play out that Rain Razors there, trying to say, go on, try and push for that last little bit of damage. But Matt held strong, knowing, nope, I'm hitting, I'm getting the on hit I want. And when the Peace of Mind came through and made it clear it was never going to happen, he said, all right, I'll just save this for the next turn. Because this return of just hammer for 4 is not quite enough to pressure cards out of Matt's hand here.
Yeah, the loss of Winter's Wail definitely being shown here in this matchup.
Yeah, it's actually
there was
arguably the most impactful card at times in that matchup, I would say.
Yeah, I would completely agree.
Just for that consistent, 4 damage and a frostbite, 4 damage and a frostbite. It really makes Lexi's pitch curve, which is already pretty difficult to navigate, that much harder to navigate.
Yeah, it has the blue this time.
Hard to find though. There you go, fatigue shot coming to a go again.
And the nice thing about this is that Charles knows there can only be 2 arrows on this turn because there's just the Rain Razors in Arsenal. But then the caveat is there's also a Rain Razors that the opponent can play.
Well, there's still one way it can be a 3-arrow turn, and that's if the next arrow that Matt loads is a Bolton shot, where if you're then able to play the Rain Razors, get it to hit, that Bolton shot reload will trigger with an empty arsenal and allow you to fire off a 3rd one. It takes a lot to come together, and it'll be very face-up. Charles will be able to play around it, but it's kind of that awkward spot of having a pseudo-attack reaction face-up in your arsenal, and how is your opponent going to play around it? Going to be interesting to see here.
Yeah, that's totally true, actually. In some cases, you just put your opponent into that constant check play where they have to block the 2nd arrow or even sometimes the 1st arrow, depending on how big it is. And that's how you get that Bolton shot through, like we saw in that 3 of a kind turn earlier on in the game, right?
Absolutely.
And
right so it looks like we're going for a bigger arrow here.
Heat Seeker coming in.
So Matt not committing the Rain Razors because he might want to play it out with I think it was a Searing Shot, the arrow left in hand there next turn. So that'll be challenging for Charles to block with a 3-arrow turn potentially coming up after this.
And it looks like we're almost emptying his hand here as well. We've got either that card's going to end up in Arsenal or it might be pitched for a hammer for 4. But in either situation, it's looking like Matt is going to have pretty much free reign to keep his whole hand next turn, which I think puts him in a really good position to use that 3 of a kind on a 3-arrow turn, as you say, as long as the draws are favorable.
Yeah, this is interesting. We see Matt thinking about this Rain Razors, because it's gonna almost guarantee replace itself with a face-up card from the top of his deck into his arsenal, and also push a little bit of damage. He likes not to here, but he definitely thought about it for a while there.
Yeah, it's a disciplined play, a very disciplined play for sure.
Yeah, and I wonder if it had to do with like how much it had to do with Charles' side of the board. Like he checked his own graveyard, but not Charles. So he probably has a good idea of what reactions and earth cards are left available to Charles roughly, but not going for the greed and draws into
hugely
the
rewarded.
Yeah,
hugely rewarded. I mean, look at this. The world is your oyster at this point. You have the choice of all the best arrows out of the top, 7 cards of your deck, basically. And all of them are going to get +2
arrows as well. Something to note here. Matt definitely set this all up here because we're on turn 14. So
yeah, just wait.
That's true. We are approaching the pitch stack here. This is definitely knowing what's left in my deck, where I'm about to see cards that I've pitched away already. Because, I mean, if that quiver hasn't been activated, we shouldn't have seen any shuffle effects so far. So Matt probably has a very good idea of what he was going to draw in this hand. So that reward was probably, as you say, known about and reaped accordingly.
Yeah, no remembrance spotted in the banish zone there.
Yeah, now Charles has got to think about this nasty on hit from Fatigue Shot, aka damage.
It turns out the best on hit is lethal. So that's what we're gunning for here, I think, on this turn.
Yeah, we see Matt looking through for D-reacts here.
Oh, and now of all times to draw that 2-block pummel that, like we were talking about earlier, it looks like he did elect to bring them in. And this is absolutely not the turn you want to see it on. You really can't afford to have it here.
Can you tell if it's a blue or is that the red?
I think it's a red one. We can only really glimpse the top of it, but because of that, I think I can see it's a red one.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and Charles is blocking 3 on this 7-power arrow. Gonna take 4 damage off Fatigue Shot. Pretty much telegraphing, okay, I'm actually not even planning on playing this big follow-up. I'm literally doing this because, I'm scared of your follow-up and whether you're going to be able to play a Bolton Shot or something similar later on in the turn.
Yeah, it's a pretty clear indicator that he does not want to keep much about this hand because, playing any kind of attack action while you're under that Fatigue Shot feels a bit anemic. I think, as you say, it's just actual fear of what if you have a more powerful on hit coming up, and Remorseless kind of counts as that.
Well, also, I think I see that Staunch in hand that can't be played because Remorseless was put into the arsenal face up with Voltaire's ability.
It can be played from hand. It just can't be played from arsenal. I suspect we're about to see that leverage just now.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. Oh, dang, that would have been a huge blowout.
And then here we see him playing it.
Yeah, and then I suppose this 6-power Searing Shot is gonna
just eat 2 cards.
Looks like we're blocking 4.
Well, that's only 4 block.
Oh, it's a blue Searing Shot. There we go.
Oh, okay.
That explains it.
Okay, well, you know what? That from Matt's side of the board, that's like, yeah, we didn't actually manage to push through to lethal there, but we stripped the hand. We got the good value out of Rain Razors with 3 arrows, and these last few points of chip damage will be the battle.
I mean, we still got 4 points of damage through there, which was huge. The funny thing about being on 2 against this list particularly is Searing Shot, that card on the bottom right. It says basically, if you're on 2 and this hits, you just die. You don't go to 1 because you're going to lose an additional life. So this is a pretty awkward spot for Charles to be in, especially if some of those Searing Shots are still poking about in the deck.
I contemplated activating the quiver there a little bit instead of just drawing the 3 cards, but elected not to.
Yeah, I wonder if he wanted to
kind of deck there. Looked like maybe he was thinking about some of his follow-up draws right here.
Yeah, it's possible he wanted to make sure there was a blue in hand for the follow-up.
Yeah, and maybe if he remembered that it was not, he would have elected to quiver and shuffle.
This is some of the technology that we're seeing in Matt's list, which I don't think is very common at Lexi at this point. Laced with Blood Rot, a card that's been pretty well understood to fit into Azalea, but we don't tend to associate these arrow pumps with Lexi very much because she just wants a very high density of arrows. What do you think that kind of adds to the matchup in this case, Lazy?
Well, I think that the being able to push through damage over the top is can be hard when you just have arrows, and some number of pumps kind of help assist in that plan, make your opponent have more awkward blocks. That being said, the Oldhim is going to block a lot of your stuff, so you don't necessarily get the 5 value out of the lace. So often it's just a 3. The thing that we know retrospectively, now that the deck lists are published, is that Matt's list didn't have any premeditates in it, which I think that, if you value your cards at 3 is a little bit higher than the 2 blood rot. But
it's interesting spot.
Occurring is very.
It's a pretty interesting spot. Those kinds of card choices make things particularly interesting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, when you hit with the lace with blood rot, you're very happy about that. You definitely
the
not
damage again is just absurd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so right there we just saw the double endless arrow with a very clean Oasis Respite to block out the first one, followed up with giving him the tunic in his last card to block out the second one. That was really clean.
Yeah, losing the tunic here might be pretty significant, though. I mean, that's that kind of resource generation that you get turn after turn. If you're trying to push for a long game, which I think Charles is still going for here, losing your ability to generate that many resources does make it that much tougher.
Yeah, and floating 1 damage prevention from Oldhim's hero ability on this. So this is part of the issue with not having the tunic, not having the card in Arsenal to Crown of Seeds, is that you can't really efficiently use that card to Rampart here. Oh, and this is a brutal Codex of Inertia, forcing an Arsenal card in from Charles' side, but then actually forcing him to discard a card as well. So this is happening after Matt has already loaded the last card from hand, so he gets the card for free for no reason. Looks at it for the first time. But now you can fire off this infecting shot, and Charles has no resources and only 1 card in hand to play with here. Looks like it is
but it's only a
blue infecting shot.
Yeah, but he did load it with Go Again, so if that card off the top will allow Matt to fire off 1 more arrow, then we could see game on this turn. It's very possible.
Yeah, and it looks like, he's going to get the extra block out of this. And it's a Codex of Frailty.
And it's followed up by a Codex of Frailty, which is going to force that additional discard from Charles Dunn again, which basically leaves him completely defenseless now in the face of Matt's last arrow, which he gets to choose from his graveyard at this point. And I think that could spell there's the fist bump. There's the end of this game.
Wow, executed super, super clean by Matt, setting up this double Codex play. And, on Charles' side of things, he battled hard throughout that game, but wasn't able to wall off the indomitable presence of Lexi.
It's pretty incredible how Lexi's gone from a hero who we would typically see as very easily fatigued by Guardians and these heavily defensive decks. She's in 1 set just suddenly been powered up to this machine who can go over the top of heavy blocks while still allowing these disruptive on-hits that Rangers are known for. It's no surprise why she's positioned towards the top of the meta like this with gameplay like that.
I think also that game really showcased the power level of the codexes and just
no question
they can be in the end of the game.
What a way to finish that game for sure. Well, that is the end of round 4. We will catch you folks for round 5 coming up next. Anything you two want to finish off with before we move along?
Yeah, I'm the Lazy Dog on Twitter, and Jody.
Bernie on Twitter.
Perfect. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, guys.